So today we are going to use the percent equation to find percents. The percent equation, as you can see, is part equals percent times whole. And so then I've made you a little note, and it says after this lesson you will have several different ways to solve percent equation. Decide which way works best for you or which way works best for you in certain problems and use that way. I don't care which way you use. That's the part where you're going to have to think about what makes the most sense to you and use that way. And sometimes different ways make more sense in different situations. So let's look at our first example. Our first example says find a part of a number. What number is 24% of 50? So there's the percent equation. Part equals percent times whole. And then I've kind of given the thought process over at the right in italics. So the first thing you're going to do is write the percent equation. That has been done for you. The part is what we don't know. So we are going to use a variable for the part that we don't know. Then the percent. And when we write it as a percent, you need to either convert it to a fraction or a decimal, or you need to key it into your calculator using the percent key. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it as a fraction just to help me know that I can't do 24 times 50. So 24% or 24 over 100 times, and then the whole is 50. And then I even made this note, substitute 24 over 100 for the percent, or you could do 0.24, or you can use the percent key on the calculator. So again, I don't care which way that you use. You might make yourself a note like I just did, or you need to kind of remember that. So then in your calculator, you're going to do 24% times 50, or you're going to do 24 divided by 100 times 50. So, whichever way makes the most sense. So go ahead and do that in your calculator, and when you do that, then you get x equals 12. All right, so our next example says find a percent. 9.5 is what percent of 25? So again, I'm going to start with my equation. Part equals percent times whole. All right, and then the part is 9.5 equals the percent that I don't know. So that's going to be my x times my whole is 25. Now I have an algebraic equation. I need to get the x by itself. So I'm multiplying to undo multiplication. I divide. I'm going to divide both sides by 25. Then in my calculator, I'm going to do 9.5 divided by 25. And when I get that, I get 0.38. So 0.38 is the same thing as 38%. So 9.5 is 38% of 25. All right, then example 3 says find a whole. 39 is 52% of what number? So I'm going to start with my equation. Part equals percent times whole. 39 is my part. Percent is 52. And then x. So there's what my equation looks like. And notice I wrote it 52% here, so I remembered to key that in the calculator correctly. I have an algebraic equation, so I'm going to divide both sides by 52%. So in my calculator, I'm doing 39 divided by 52%. And when I work that in my calculator, then I get 75. So you should be doing this in your calculator just like I am. Don't just rely on my notes. You need to be keying that in your calculator so you know that you're getting the same answer. So when you do this by yourself, you know how to do it. All right, now you have 6 problems to do on your own. It says write and solve an equation to answer the question. Go ahead and work these out, pause the recording, work these out, and then come back and check your answers with mine. Okay, so on the first one, I wrote my percent equation, part equals percent times whole. My part is the part that I don't know, so that's my variable. X equals 10% times 20. Then when I do that in my calculator, 10% or 10 over 100 or 0.1 times 20, the answer comes out to be 2. So my first one, X equals 2. All right, on number 2, I have my equation, part equals percent times whole. My part is what I don't know, so that's my variable. X equals 150% times 40. Then in my calculator, I'm going to do 150% key times 40. And then when I work that out on my calculator, I get X equals 60. All right, on number 3, it says 3 is what percent of 600? So I have my percent equation, part equals percent times whole. My part is 3, my percent is what I'm trying to find, so that's my X. And then my whole is 600, so I'm going to divide both sides by 600. And then when I do that, I get X equals 0.005, and so this is kind of a strange one, and that is the same thing as 0.5%. So be careful with that one. That one's kind of tricky. You might even want to star that one just because of the way that the numbers work out, but that one comes out to be 0.5%. All right, so then number 4, 18 is what percent of 20? I have my percent equation, part equals percent times whole. 18 equals, my percent is what I don't know, so that's my variable, X times 20. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 20. So when I work that out, I get X equals 0.9, and that is the same thing as 90%. Okay, and I might star that one too. You have to be careful with the percent ones and make sure that you convert them to a percentage. All right, number 5 says 8 is 80% of what number? I have my part equals percent times whole. My part is 8 equals 80% times X. I'm going to divide both sides by 80%. And when I do that, that should be 80%, then I get 10 equals X. All right, then number 6, 90 is 80% of what number? I have my percent equation, part equals percent times whole. My part is 90 equals 18% times X. Divide both sides by 18%. Then when I work that on the calculator, then I get 500 equals X. So those are the on your own. If you worked these on your own and you're having trouble getting any of the answers, then please come see me in the morning, especially on 3 and 4. Those can be a little bit tricky, and you really should use your calculator and make sure, don't just copy down my notes, make sure that you're getting the same answers that I'm getting so you know how to key those in. All right, so example 4, we have a real life example. It says find the percent of sales tax on the food total. So here is our tab. So we've eaten at the 8th Street Cafe. Our server was Jane. We were at table 72. Our food total was $27.50, and then the tax was $1.65, and then our subtotal came to $29.15. All right, so it says find the percent of sales tax on the food total. All right, so I'm going to start with my equation. Part equals percent times whole. Percent is what I'm trying to find, so I know that's going to be my X. My part would be my tax. Percent is what I'm trying to find, and then the whole is the food total, so 2750. This is an algebra problem. I'm going to divide both sides by 2750. So in my calculator, I do $1.65 divided by 2750, and I get 0.06 equals X. That is the same thing as 6%. So the percent of sales tax is 6%. So you have to remember when it asks you to find the percent, you have to remember to take this number right here and convert it to the percent. And I think that's a really hard thing to remember, so I might star that one just as a caution. It's something that's going to trip some of you up if you're not careful and you don't go back and reread the problem. All right, let's look at part B. It says find the amount of a 16% tip on the food total. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with my equation, and I have part equals percent times whole. Alright, and so part is what I'm trying to find, and I want to leave a 16% tip on the food total. So that's the 2750. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 16% times 2750. And when I do that, I get 4.4. That is not how we write money. So my answer, the amount of tip that I'm going to leave is $4.40. And I guess I could even label that as tip. All right, then the on your own, go ahead and pause the recording and do the on your own. It says find the amount of a 20% tip on the food total. That's going to be very similar to what we just did. So I have part equals percent times whole. The part is what I'm trying to find. So, and I'm doing 20% this time, times 2750. And when I work that out, it comes out to be 5.5. And again, that's not how I write money. So if I were leaving a 20% tip, I would leave $5.50. Again, if you have questions, please come see me in the morning.